When most people think about money, they don't think of it as a tool or as a source of freedom or even as a way to design their future. They think of it as something that slips through their fingers the moment it arrives. Picture this. Payday comes, you feel a little sigh of relief as your account balance rises, and for a brief moment you feel in control. But then, almost immediately, the bills arrive like an army waiting at the gates. The rent or mortgage payment, the electricity bill, the internet subscription, the groceries, the car insurance, the credit card minimum. And one by one, they march through your account, pulling dollars away until what's left is hardly enough to make you feel secure. Maybe you set an intention to save. Maybe you even tell yourself you'll put aside what's left after expenses. But when the dust settles and the bills are done, you realize there is nothing left. And then the cycle repeats. This is the trap. It's the paycheck-to-paycheck treadmill that so many people spend their lives stuck on. And the painful part is many work hard, very hard, yet never feel like they are moving forward. They might get a raise, but somehow the expenses rise too. They move to a better neighborhood, buy a better car, get newer gadgets, but still feel the same financial stress. More money flows in, but more money flows out, and the net result is the same. A gnawing sense of being one step behind, of never catching up. The truth is, this cycle isn't just about numbers. It's about mindset. We are taught, almost from childhood, to prioritize everyone and everything else before ourselves. We're taught to pay the landlord first, the utility companies first, the debt collectors first, and if there is something left over, then maybe save a little. But here's the problem. There's almost never anything left. Because when you treat saving as optional, life will always make sure that optional means never. Emergencies appear, temptations arise, unexpected expenses hit, and what could have been yours slips away. And so, year after year, decade after decade, the habit continues. People tell themselves they'll start saving when they earn more. They'll begin investing when their debts are gone. They'll build wealth someday, when life finally slows down. But someday never comes. Waiting until circumstances are perfect is like waiting for the ocean to stop making waves. It will never happen. The wealthy know this secret, and it is simple. They pay themselves first. Not last, not with leftovers, not when it's convenient. They treat themselves like the most important bill in their life, the one that cannot be skipped, the one that gets paid before anyone else. That is why they build wealth even when others around them, sometimes earning the same income, remain stuck. But before we dig into the principle itself, let's understand why so many fail to escape the trap. It's not because people are lazy or foolish or incapable. It's because the system is designed this way. We live in a culture that encourages consumption over savings. Advertisements tell us that happiness is just one more purchase away. Society whispers that success is measured by what you own, not what you keep. And so people spend to prove they are worthy, to look like they are successful, to chase an image of abundance that in reality leaves them empty. There's also fear. Fear that if they don't pay the bills immediately, disaster will strike. Fear that if they don't buy that thing they've been craving, they'll miss out on joy. Fear that if they don't keep up with friends or family and appearances, they'll fall behind. This fear keeps them in line. It makes them servants of their paycheck rather than masters of their money. Let me tell you a short story. A man once said he could never save because his bills consumed everything he earned. He earned a modest wage and every cent was accounted for. But when challenged, he was told to save just $1 a day, no matter what. At first, he thought it was pointless. What difference could a dollar make? But over time, that single dollar became habit. That habit became $10, then $50, then $100. Within a few years, he had a savings account that made him proud, not because the amount was massive, but because for the first time in his life, he was in control. He had broken the cycle of waiting for leftovers. The first lesson here is simple. The trap is not about income. It's about order. Who do you pay first? If the answer is everyone else, then you will remain trapped. If the answer becomes myself, even if the amount is small, then you begin the journey toward financial freedom. Think about this. You work hard for your money. You give your time, your energy, your skills, your life force in exchange for those dollars. Why then should everyone else get paid before you do? Doesn't your future deserve more respect than that? Shouldn't your effort benefit you first before it benefits landlords, lenders, and corporations? Paying yourself first is not about being selfish. It's about being wise. It's about recognizing that the greatest obligation you have is to your own future security, your own freedom, and your own dreams. Because if you never secure those, you will forever be at the mercy of bills, bosses, and circumstances. And here's the reality. Most people think they need a perfect plan before they start. They want to wait until the debts are gone or until they earn more. But wealth doesn't grow from someday. It grows from today, from whatever you have, no matter how small. 1% of your income set aside consistently is infinitely better than 0% with good intentions. This first chapter is about opening your eyes to the trap and seeing it for what it is. It's about recognizing that living for everyone else first leaves you with nothing. It's about realizing that money, when treated correctly, is not just about survival, it's about freedom. And that freedom starts with one decision: to pay yourself before you pay anyone else. As we move forward into the next chapter, I'll show you exactly what paying yourself first means in practice. We'll take this idea from concept to action. But before we do, I want you to hold on to one thought. If you always wait until after life takes its share, you will never have anything left for yourself. But if you put yourself first, even just a little, you begin to change everything. You step off the treadmill. You take control of the cycle. And you finally begin to keep what is rightfully yours. Now that we've uncovered the trap most people fall into, it's time to step into the heart of this principle and see what it truly means. Pay yourself first is a phrase that sounds almost too simple, almost like one of those catchy slogans you'd see on a poster. But behind those 3 words is a philosophy that has changed the lives of countless people. It's a principle that has been taught by financial teachers, echoed in the wisdom of ancient texts, and lived out by the wealthy for generations. And yet, despite its power, most people misunderstand it or dismiss it because they think it sounds unrealistic in their situation. So let's break it down. To pay yourself first does not mean treating yourself to a new outfit before paying rent. It does not mean splurging on a meal before handling your bills. It does not mean indulging in wants while ignoring responsibilities. No, the essence of this principle is much more profound. It means that before you pay your landlord, before you pay the utility company, before you pay the bank, you must pay the most important person in your financial life, you. It means that your future self, your financial security, your long-term freedom is the very first bill you must handle. Imagine for a moment that you are a business. Every business has expenses, debts, and obligations. But every successful business also has profit. That profit is not an afterthought. It is the goal. If a business only ever spends everything it makes with nothing left over, it eventually collapses. Yet so many individuals run their personal finances as if they are businesses that never plan for profit. They earn, they spend, they pay, they consume, but they keep nothing. Paying yourself first is the act of making sure you too run your life like a business that prioritizes profit. You become the owner of your financial destiny, not just a worker caught in the grind. Let's be even clearer. To pay yourself first means that the moment money arrives in your hands, whether it is a paycheck, a commission, a side hustle payment, or even a gift, you immediately set aside a portion of it for yourself. Not after you've paid the bills, not after you've gone shopping, not after you've enjoyed the weekend, but immediately. You move that portion into a place that is separate, untouchable, and dedicated to building your future. This is the money that goes into your savings, your investments, your wealth-building accounts. It is not for spending. It is not for emergencies if you can avoid it. It is for building. At first glance, some people protest. They say, but my bills are too high. I can't afford to save anything before I pay them. And yet, this is the very mindset that keeps them trapped. The truth is, you cannot afford not to pay yourself first. Because if you don't, you will always be paying everyone else. The landlord will get richer. The credit card company will get richer. The car dealership will get richer. Everyone will get paid except you. And when you look back years later, you'll see that you gave away your entire life's work to other people while keeping almost nothing for yourself. Think of your money as water flowing through a pipe. If you let it all flow out toward expenses, nothing remains for you. Paying yourself first means placing a cup at the beginning of the pipe, catching a portion of the flow before it goes anywhere else. Even if that cup is small, it fills up over time. And eventually, it becomes the foundation for your independence. Now, how much should you pay yourself first? There are different schools of thought. Some financial advisors recommend 10%. Others say 15%. Some push for as high as 20 or even 30. The truth is, the number matters less than the habit. If you can only start with 1%, start there. If you can handle 5%, do it. The important part is not the size of the contribution, but the consistency of it. Because what begins as a small trickle can become a river over time. And what matters most is that you train your mind and your behavior to prioritize yourself before anyone else. There is also a psychological effect that cannot be ignored. When you pay yourself first, you create a sense of dignity and control. You send a message to yourself: I matter. My future matters. My dreams are worth something. That act alone reshapes the way you view money. Instead of being a servant to your expenses, you become the master of your income. And strangely, when you prioritize yourself, you often find that you can still pay your bills. Somehow, you adapt. Somehow, the money stretches. Somehow, life adjusts to the decision you made. I recall a woman who once told her story of transformation. She was drowning in bills, overwhelmed, always in debt. When she first heard the idea of paying herself first, she thought it was impossible. How could she save when she was already behind? But she made a choice to start with just 2% of her income. Every payday, she transferred that 2% into a separate savings account. At first, it felt insignificant. But after several months, she realized she had created a cushion. A year later, she increased it to 5%, then 10%. Over time, the habit became so natural that she no longer thought about it. Today, she looks back and says that single decision, choosing to pay herself before anyone else, was the turning point of her entire financial journey. This is the magic of the principle. It's not about numbers on a spreadsheet. It's about identity. When you pay yourself first, you shift your identity from a spender to a saver, from a consumer to a builder, from a follower to a leader of your own finances. You no longer wait for circumstances to improve. You take control, even if the step is small. Another way to think of it is like planting seeds. If a farmer ate every seed he harvested, he would have nothing left to plant next season. He would enjoy the short-term satisfaction of a full stomach, but he would starve in the long run. The wise farmer sets aside a portion of every harvest, no matter how small, to plant again. That is what grows into abundance. Paying yourself first is the modern equivalent of saving your seeds. It is the discipline that ensures you always have a future harvest. Let's also address one misconception. Paying yourself first is not about ignoring your obligations. It's not about defaulting on bills or avoiding responsibility. It is about creating a balance where you are not lost in the endless cycle of giving everything away. If you only ever pay others and never yourself, you become a financial servant. But if you pay yourself first, you become financially sovereign. The power of this principle is amplified when you make it automatic. Set up a system where on payday, a portion of your income immediately moves into a separate account without you touching it. Treat it as if it were invisible. If you don't see it, you won't miss it. Over time, you adjust your lifestyle to live on what remains. This simple automation transforms good intentions into reality. Because let's be honest, if you wait until after bills and spending to save, you will almost never save. But if you move it at the beginning, you will surprise yourself by learning to live comfortably within the rest. So what does it really mean to pay yourself first? It means you refuse to be last on your own priority list. It means you value your future enough to protect it now. It means you plant the seeds for abundance even when the ground looks dry. It means you declare to yourself and to the world that your labor, your time, and your energy will serve your freedom, not just the demands of others. As we close this chapter, I want you to sit with this question. Who are you working for? When you wake up early, when you put in hours, when you give your best, who benefits most? If the answer is always someone else, landlords, banks, credit card companies, retailers, then you have been caught in a system designed to keep you serving others. But when you begin to pay yourself first, even in the smallest way, you reclaim your power. You take your rightful place as the first beneficiary of your hard work. And that is the true meaning of paying yourself first. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to begin this practice, even if you feel broke, overwhelmed, or burdened by debt. You'll see that the principle is not about waiting until conditions are perfect. It's about starting exactly where you are, with exactly what you have. Because the path to abundance does not begin someday. It begins today. By now, you understand the trap. You've seen how paying yourself first is not just a clever saying, but a powerful principle that shifts your entire relationship with money. But here's the big question, the question almost everyone asks when they first hear about this idea. What if I can't afford to pay myself first? What if I'm barely making ends meet as it is? It's a fair question. Because when you're staring at overdue bills, or juggling debts, or looking at an income that feels too small to stretch, the idea of setting aside money for yourself can feel impossible. But here is the truth you must hold on to. Paying yourself first is not about the amount, it's about the habit. It's about creating a new order of priorities in your financial life, even if you start small. So small, it almost feels meaningless. Let me paint a picture. Imagine a jar sitting on your table. Each day you drop in a single coin, just one. At first, it looks ridiculous. The jar barely shows any change. A week passes, and you can hardly notice the weight. But then, as the days accumulate, something shifts. That jar begins to fill. Slowly, quietly, but steadily. After a month, there is a little collection. After a year, there's a surprising sum. The act of dropping in a coin doesn't just grow the jar, it grows your mindset. You begin to see that consistency creates results, even when the effort feels small. This is how paying yourself first works when you feel broke. You start with what you can, even if it's $1 a day, a single % of your income, or the spare change left over after a purchase. The key is not the size, but the symbolism. You are sending yourself a message. I matter. My future matters. My dreams are not waiting until tomorrow. They begin today. There's a story of a man who lived paycheck to paycheck, often running out of money before the month was over. He insisted he had nothing to save. But when challenged, he agreed to try setting aside just 1% of his income, an amount so small he wouldn't miss it. At first, it was awkward, but over time he adapted. He discovered he could still pay his bills. He could still live. But now he had a small cushion that slowly grew. A year later, he increased it to 2%. Then 5%. Within a few years, he had built a safety net that once seemed impossible. His life changed not because he suddenly became rich, but because he made a decision to start even when it felt hopeless. That is the power of beginning small. When you wait for someday to save, someday when the income is higher, someday when the debts are gone, someday when life is easier, you will wait forever. Life will always find ways to spend your money. But when you start now, even with the tiniest amount, you break the cycle. You shift the order. You put yourself first. Now let's make this practical. Suppose you earn $1,000 in a month. The idea of saving 100 might feel overwhelming. So don't start with 100. Start with 10. That's 1%. Automatically move that $10 into a separate account as soon as the paycheck arrives. Don't wait until the bills are paid. Don't wait until you've gone shopping. Move it first. What you're doing is training yourself. You're learning to live on 990 instead of the full 1,000. And here's the surprise. You will find a way. Human beings are adaptable. We shrink and stretch our lifestyle to fit the money we allow ourselves to use. The beauty of starting small is that it removes excuses. Anyone can set aside 1%. Anyone can spare a single coin, a single bill, a single piece of their income, no matter how tight life feels. And once you prove to yourself that it's possible, you can slowly increase it. 2%, 5%, 10%. The percentages grow with time, but the real wealth is in the discipline. Of course, some will say, but what about my debts? Shouldn't I pay them first? And it's true, debts are heavy, and they must be faced. But here's what you must remember. If you only ever focus on paying debt, you remain in the cycle of serving others. You keep giving all your money to banks, to lenders, to credit card companies, and you leave nothing for yourself. By paying yourself first, even while paying down debt, you create a balance. You remind yourself that your future is as important as your obligations. And ironically, as you build the habit of saving, you also build the discipline that helps you escape debt faster. Another strategy for those who feel truly broke is to find micro savings opportunities. Think of all the small leaks in your financial life. The coffee you buy every day, the subscription you barely use, the impulse purchases that add up. If you cut just one of these leaks and redirect that money into your Pay Yourself First account, you will see change. For example, skipping a $3 coffee 5 times a week gives you $15. That's $60 a month, $720 a year. Redirected into savings, it becomes seed money for your future. And once you see that number grow, you'll feel motivated to find more leaks to patch. But perhaps the most important step when starting from a place of feeling broke is to automate the process. If you rely on willpower alone, you will fail, because willpower fades, temptation whispers, and emergencies scream. But if you set up an automatic transfer so that money moves into your savings account without you touching it, then the decision is made once and the habit carries itself forward. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to debate with yourself. It just happens. And over time, it becomes part of the rhythm of your financial life. There's something empowering about opening your account and seeing a balance that belongs only to you. It may be small at first, but it's yours. It's not for bills. It's not for debts. It's not for anyone else. It's the beginning of your independence, and that feeling alone can shift your mindset from despair to hope. Remember, too, that abundance is not about the size of your income. It's about the choices you make with what you have. There are people with high incomes who are broke because they never learned this principle. And there are people with modest incomes who build wealth because they started small, stayed consistent, and grew their savings over time. The difference is not the paycheck, it's the priorities. So, how do you start when you feel broke? You start by choosing to set aside something, anything, before you give away your income to everyone else. You start by valuing your future enough to put it above your fears. You start by planting seeds, no matter how tiny, and trusting that they will grow. You start by refusing to wait for perfect conditions because perfect conditions will never arrive. In this chapter, you've seen that paying yourself first is not about being rich already. It's about creating the path that leads there. It's about starting exactly where you are, with exactly what you have, and refusing to let excuses steal your future. The act of paying yourself first is not about amounts. It's about respect for yourself, for your effort, for your time, and for the life you want to create. In the next chapter, we will talk about where this money should go once you begin setting it aside. Because it's not enough to save. It must be directed with purpose. We'll explore how to build layers of security and growth, from emergency funds to investments, so that every dollar you pay yourself works harder for you than you work to earn it. That is the next step in transforming your money into lasting abundance. By now, you understand the importance of paying yourself first. You've seen why it matters, and you've seen that starting small, even when life feels tight, creates the foundation for freedom. But this leads us to the next crucial question. Once you've set money aside for yourself, where should it go? The answer matters deeply, because if you're not careful, the money you save can slip away through poor choices, emergencies, or simply a lack of direction. To truly harness the power of this principle, you need a clear path for the money you've claimed. Think of it as assigning each dollar a job. When you pay yourself first, you are hiring your money to work for you. And just like any employee, it needs a role, a purpose, and a clear mission. Let's begin with the first layer, your emergency fund. This is the foundation upon which all financial security is built. Imagine living in a house without a foundation. No matter how beautiful the walls or how strong the roof, one unexpected storm could bring it down. The emergency fund is your foundation. It is a separate account where you keep cash specifically for unexpected events. Car repairs, medical bills, job loss, or even something as simple as replacing a broken appliance. Without this fund, every bump in the road can throw you off course. And often people end up reaching for credit cards or loans when emergencies strike. That path leads to debt, and debt is the enemy of freedom. How much should you have in an emergency fund? A common recommendation is 3 to 6 months of living expenses. For some, that number feels overwhelming, but don't let it intimidate you. Start with a small goal, maybe $500, then $1,000. Celebrate those milestones because even a small cushion can prevent you from falling deeper into debt. Once you reach 1,000, aim for a full month of expenses, then slowly build toward 3 months, then 6. Every step forward strengthens your safety net. Once your emergency fund is in place, the next step is to direct your money toward long-term growth. This is where saving transitions into investing, because saving alone, while important, is not enough to build wealth. Inflation, the silent thief, will slowly erode the value of money, sitting idle. To protect and grow your wealth, your money must be put to work in assets that appreciate over time. So where should you invest? There are many paths, and the right choice depends on your goals, your risk tolerance, and your timeline. But let's explore the major categories. The first is retirement accounts. In many countries, there are tax-advantaged accounts designed to help you build wealth for your later years. Whether it's a 401k, an IRA, or another type of retirement fund, these accounts allow your investments to grow with powerful benefits. Contributing consistently to a retirement account, especially when your employer matches contributions, is like planting seeds in rich, fertile soil. Over time, with the magic of compound growth, those seeds can become a forest. Next, consider index funds and exchange-traded funds, ETFs. These are simple, low-cost investment vehicles that track the performance of entire markets. Instead of gambling on individual stocks, which can be risky and unpredictable, index funds spread your investment across hundreds or even thousands of companies. History shows that markets grow over the long term, despite short-term ups and downs. By consistently investing in index funds, you allow your money to ride that growth. For those with an appetite for more involvement, individual stocks, real estate, or small business ventures are options. Real estate, for example, has created wealth for millions of people. Owning a rental property or investing in real estate funds can provide both income and appreciation. Starting or investing in a business, while riskier, can also be a powerful way to build wealth if approached wisely. But these paths require education, research, and discipline. The principle, however, remains the same. Money that is paid to you first must be given a job that serves your future. It should not sit idle for too long, and it should not be spent on short-term pleasures. It must be directed toward assets that grow, multiply, and eventually provide you with freedom. But there is another important step to consider before diving too deep into investments, and that is tackling high-interest debt. If you are carrying debts with high interest rates like credit cards charging 20% or more, it often makes sense to prioritize paying them down quickly. Why? Because the guaranteed return from eliminating a 20% interest charge is greater than what you are likely to earn from most investments. Paying off high-interest debt is, in a way, a form of investing. It frees you from the chains that drag your wealth backward. So how do you balance paying yourself first with paying down debt? The answer is both. Continue saving, even if it's small, to maintain the habit and protect your future, while also aggressively targeting high-interest debts. This dual approach ensures you don't sacrifice tomorrow for today, or today for tomorrow. Let me share another story. A young woman once decided to pay herself first while drowning in student loans and credit card debt. She felt guilty, as if she was betraying her creditors by saving money for herself. But she decided to trust the process. She started with just $25 a week into a savings account. At the same time, she created a plan to pay off her highest interest debts. Over time, her debts shrank, but so did her anxiety. Why? Because she had a growing savings account that made her feel in control for the first time in years. Eventually, she paid off her debts completely, and by then her savings habit was so strong that she seamlessly shifted into investing. Today, she says the best decision she ever made was paying herself first, even while carrying debt, because it gave her hope and momentum. Another area where your money should go is toward future goals beyond survival and retirement. Do you dream of owning a home? Starting a business? Traveling the world? Funding your children's education? All of these require resources, and paying yourself first allows you to set up dedicated accounts for each dream. The beauty of this system is that you are no longer wishing for the future. You are actively building it brick by brick, dollar by dollar. The key is to keep your accounts separate. Money saved for emergencies should not be mixed with money saved for vacations. Money invested for retirement should not be casually withdrawn for daily spending. Separation creates clarity. It also creates psychological boundaries that prevent you from sabotaging your progress. There is also an emotional layer to this process. When you decide where your money goes, you are shaping your identity. You are declaring who you are and who you are becoming. Are you the person who reacts to every crisis with panic and debt? Or are you the person who calmly handles life's surprises because you prepared? Are you the person who dreams but never acts? Or are you the person who turns dreams into reality by funding them little by little? Each dollar you assign a purpose is a vote for the kind of person you are becoming. So let's recap the order of where your money should go when you pay yourself first. First, build a foundation with an emergency fund. Next, eliminate high-interest debt while continuing to save. Then, invest in retirement accounts and low-cost index funds for long-term growth. After that, expand into opportunities like real estate, stocks, or business ventures if they align with your goals. And throughout the process, create dedicated accounts for specific dreams so you are not only building wealth but also building a life that excites you. Remember, every dollar you earn has potential. Left unclaimed, it flows away to others. Claimed, directed, and given purpose, it becomes your ally. It becomes a builder of security, freedom, and abundance. Where your money goes determines where your life goes. As we close this chapter, I want you to imagine your money as a team of workers. Each one represents your effort, your time, your energy. Right now, are those workers building your dreams, or are they building someone else's empire? Paying yourself first and directing your money with purpose ensures that your workers labor for you, not just for the landlord, the lender, or the corporation. In the next chapter, we'll bring everything together by exploring how this principle transforms not just your finances, but your life. We'll see how paying yourself first shifts you from survival to abundance, from stress to freedom, and from living by chance to living with intention. Because ultimately, this is not just about money, it's about reclaiming your power and designing the life you deserve. For much of this journey, we focused on the mechanics, the trap of living paycheck to paycheck, the principle of paying yourself first, the practical steps of saving and where that money should go. But in this final chapter, I want to lift your perspective higher, because this principle is not only about dollars in an account. It is about the life you are building, the freedom you are claiming, and the abundance you are stepping into. So let's begin with a truth. Most people spend their lives in survival mode. They work to cover bills. They work to keep up. They work to stay afloat. And even when they get ahead a little, they fear slipping back. Survival mode is exhausting, draining, and it robs people of their creativity, their joy, and their potential. But abundance mode, that's different. Abundance mode is when money is no longer a constant worry, when savings provide a cushion, when investments generate income, and when opportunities appear because you've positioned yourself to seize them. In abundance mode, you are not reactive, constantly scrambling to put out fires. You are proactive, designing the life you want with clarity and confidence. And the bridge between survival and abundance is this principle we've explored together: paying yourself first. It seems small, almost too simple. But remember, simple does not mean easy, and simple does not mean ineffective. Paying yourself first shifts your entire relationship with money. It changes your identity from servant to master, from victim to architect. It tells your subconscious mind, I matter. My future matters. My dreams matter. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine two people, both earning the same income. One pays bills first and saves what's left. The other pays themselves first, even if it's only a small percentage. 10 years pass. The first person has worked hard but has little to show for it. Emergencies, lifestyle creep, and expenses consumed it all. The second person, however, has built an emergency fund, invested steadily, and watched their money grow. They now have options. They can take a vacation without debt. They can walk away from a toxic job. They can invest in opportunities others can't. They are no longer chained to survival. They are living in abundance. The difference wasn't income. It wasn't luck. It wasn't some secret the world is hiding. The difference was a decision. A decision repeated consistently to pay themselves first. Now, abundance doesn't just mean more money. It means more freedom, more peace, and more choice. It means you no longer live in constant anxiety about the next bill, the next emergency, or the next downturn. It means your mind is free to focus on growth, on creativity, on contribution. Because when money is managed wisely, it becomes a tool to amplify the best parts of your life, not a source of stress that drains your energy. One of the greatest gifts of abundance is time. Think about how many people sacrifice their time year after year just to stay afloat. They miss family moments. They push their passions aside. They live exhausted. But when you pay yourself first and your savings and investments begin to work for you, you start to reclaim your time. You create breathing room. You open doors to choices that survival mode could never offer. And here is another truth. Abundance attracts abundance. When you have a cushion, when you are no longer desperate, you begin to make better decisions. You can negotiate from strength instead of weakness. You can take risks others can't. You can say no to opportunities that drain you, and yes to opportunities that grow you. In survival mode, desperation often forces people into bad deals, poor choices, or cycles of debt. In abundance mode, clarity allows you to choose wisely. So how do you make this leap? How do you turn everything we've discussed into a lasting transformation? It begins with a commitment. Commit to never again treating your future as optional. Commit to paying yourself first, no matter the amount, no matter the circumstances. Commit to giving every dollar a purpose that serves your highest vision. Start small, but start. Even $5 saved is a declaration of abundance. Then grow it. Increase your percentage as your income rises. Automate it so it happens without effort. Separate it so it doesn't get mixed with daily spending. And most importantly, stay consistent. Wealth is not built in sudden leaps, but in steady steps, repeated with discipline. And remember this, abundance is not only financial. As you practice paying yourself first, you begin to see how the principle applies to every area of life. Pay yourself first with your time, set aside moments for rest, reflection, and growth before giving all your energy to others. Pay yourself first with your health. Nourish your body, move it, care for it, before the demands of the world exhaust it. Pay yourself first with your relationships. Invest in those who uplift you before giving all your love and attention to people who drain you. This principle, once embraced, transforms more than money. It transforms how you live. It teaches you to value yourself, to honor your future, and to act with intention. Let me leave you with one final story. There was a man who worked an average job his entire life. His income was nothing extraordinary, and many assumed he would retire with little. But early on, he embraced the principle of paying himself first. Quietly, consistently, he saved and invested. He lived a comfortable life, never extravagant, but never deprived. Decades later, when he passed, people were stunned to learn he had built a fortune. He left behind not only wealth, but a legacy of wisdom. His secret wasn't a high salary, a lucky break, or insider knowledge. His secret was simple. He paid himself first. Now, his story doesn't need to be rare. It can be yours. You don't have to accept a life of financial stress or endless survival. You don't have to wait for a miracle or a windfall. The path is already in your hands. It begins with one choice, a choice to treat your future with respect, a choice to prioritize your dreams, a choice to pay yourself first. So as we close this audiobook, I invite you to picture the life you truly want. Not just survival, not just scraping by, but abundance. A life where money is not your master, but your servant. A life where you wake up with peace, where you pursue your passions, where you live with freedom. That life is possible. It is within reach, and it begins the moment you decide to take control, the moment you decide to claim what is rightfully yours. From survival to abundance, the journey is not a mystery. It is not reserved for the lucky or the wealthy. It is a journey paved by discipline, by consistency, and by one timeless principle. Always, no matter what, pay yourself first.